Guzma is one of Pokemon's most beloved villains, and almost no one can tell you why. The secret? He was built to be a broken version of you. Not the hero you play as, but the person holding the controller. Because Guzma is a victim of hatred and bullying. In Guzma's introduction in the Alola games, you seem to be a very destructive man, who's not just being destructive in the way he speaks, but he's quite literally talking about destruction as well, even claiming to be the physical manifestation of it in many ways. He's out to break and crush Kukui as well as anyone else who participates in the island trials. Not just that, but he seems to have something against Z-moves alongside the island trials, looking to crush everything about Alola's tradition. But this isn't everything we learn about him from this scene. Guzma constantly refers to himself as the hated boss, which I initially understood hated as people in the public perceiving him as a threat, but there's something deeper to this in terms of being hated. There's also Guzma yelling at himself and hitting himself whenever he loses, going, "Guzma, what's wrong with you?" I always took this as him just moving in panic, but looking closer, he's actually hitting himself. And that, alongside with the hated boss, is the first sign of his dark past. The next time we meet him, we see that his hate for the island challenge and Z moves are so strong that he actually hoards every single one of the Buginium Z's at his hideout. But he never uses any of them himself because he still rejects these traditions and values. He lives by his own terms and sticks to each of them strongly. Every time he loses to a player, he semi-admits how good they are, showing some level of respect and wanting to grow stronger, but then jumps back to his ways of yelling and being really angry. Here in this particular battle, you see that he's somewhat honorable, as he tells the grunt to return a little girl's stolen Yungoos upon his defeat. And in general, the way the Team Skull grunts talk about him, it doesn't seem like he's a bad guy at all. He just has questionable ways. He even sheltered and took in Gladion to Team Skull after all, so there's definitely something more to him. And the funny thing is, you actually learn a lot about him before you even meet him for the first time. Because on Route 2, there's a house of a random set of parents that's actually confirmed to be Guzma's house. Here, as we look into the house, we can actually see a younger version of Guzma holding the Island Challenge amulet with pride, meaning that at some point, Guzma was really fond of the Island Challenge. The complete opposite of how he is now. And as we look through his room, we actually see a whole lot of trophies here as well. But the thing is, they're not first place trophies. They're all second and third place trophies, meaning that while he was strong, he was never the best. His mother speaks about how there seems to be rumors floating around about Guzma is causing trouble and mischief, but she knows it's not true, indicating that she has no reason to believe any of the ill words about him because she knows that he has a good heart. His father, on the other hand, has something much darker to share, a mistake that he in particular has made. At some point, Guzma was a good kid who seemed to have loved everything about Lola, but somewhere along the way, Guzma decided to run away from home to get stronger on his own. His father mentions this, but goes on to say that he tried to set his son straight, but in the end, he's the one who ended up getting beat instead, which means that Guzma stood up to and probably got into a physical fight with his father, after his father tried to beat him or physically harm him himself. I know that may be a very literal interpretation for Pokemon, but it's not so crazy when you take a look at the room around him. By going into one of the corners of the room, you can see that some golf clubs are there that are all broken or bent out of shape, and this isn't from playing too much golf. From all the signs that we have, it all points to Guzma's father using these golf clubs to beat Guzma when he was younger. His comment of being the hated boss, probably how he felt from his parents and all the other adults around him. His catchphrase of "Guzma, what's wrong with you?" and him hitting himself, probably something he repeatedly says to himself and does to himself because that's what his parents and all the other adults around him kept saying to him and doing to him. And I'm mentioning other adults here because there are other adults who are a part of his story here as well. Guzma being a child that was abused ties in heavily to his relationship with Lusamine, because as Plumeria describes it, within the games, she's the only adult that Guzma ever liked, because she's the only adult that ever actually acknowledged him and his strength. All those second and third place trophies means that someone was always one step ahead, always getting the acknowledgement that he wanted. And based on what we can tell with his father, there was no acknowledgement of the sort coming from home either. Through the games and the anime, we learned what the first jab at Kukui was really about. Guzma and Kukui were both disciples under Hala, both training to become child captains. This was Guzma's dream, and Guzma kept losing to Kukui. In the anime, he says it outright. He couldn't understand why he always came up short. In the games, he calls himself and Kukui both rejects who never became captain. So maybe they were both losing to someone else, but it doesn't matter who. What matters is that Guzma wasn't chosen, and the acknowledgement he was starting for never came from Hala either. And so, he began to reject everything. His family, his friends, his home, the trial system, Z-moves, everything. After all, when you feel like you don't belong somewhere, the next step is rejection, and to form your own ways. Gladion rejecting Lusamine is probably why Guzma even took a liking to him in the first place. Once Guzma stood firm in this rejection, he ran away to join a different group. A group of misfits led by an old bro Kahuna who rejected Alola. But that group fell apart after one of the Tapus put a stop to them, and the remnants of that group went ahead and formed Team Skull, with Guzma as its leader. From there, Guzma would have went on to cause destruction and chaos to Alola wherever he saw fit, with the only person he ever listened to or took commands from being Lusamine, which I have a whole video about Lusamine here and talk about the tragedy that she went through, but ultimately, Lusamine was abusive to her own, to Lily and Gladion. And Guzma, as someone who was abused, somehow managed to go towards Lusamine out of all people. The abused found a way to go towards an abuser. A classic but unfortunate tale. And while Guzma thought he found a place for himself, a place to be seen, Lusamine was only using him the same way she was using everyone else. Something crazy to note here to tie all of Guzma's past and present together is how similar or intentional Guzma and his ace Golisopod are to each other. Golisopod is a perfect analogy or representation of Guzma. If you look at Wimpod, it's incredibly scared and weak. Guzma as a kid probably felt exactly like that. Not because he was actually weak, the trophies prove he wasn't, but because inside, that's how he saw himself. But upon evolving to Golisopod, there's strength. So much strength that you're no longer the one that's afraid, but the one causing fear to others. That's how people view both Guzma as an adult and Golisopod after all. But that's not all, because like Guzma, Golisopod is still a bit afraid. Golisopod still has the ability of emergency exit, running away whenever it's weak, or in this case, afraid. Someone who tries to strike fear into others is always afraid. Guzma still embodies this as he never took on any battles with any trial captains or Kahuna in his time as Team Skull's boss. And despite Golisopod striking fear into its opponents, it's still loyal to and takes commands from its trainer, just like how Guzma takes commands from Lusamine. After the climax of the Sun and Moon games and everything that happens in Ultra Space, Guzma mellows down a bit and disbands Team Skull. He removes his Team Skull tattoos, crosses out the skull on the back of his jacket, and changes his glasses to ones that are more uniform. He even goes back home to his parents, which might mean that he's made some kind of peace with them. But here, he does ask you to meet him at a beach for a battle, and upon losing to you, he questions why he can't beat you. Here, Hala comes in and we get to see a bit of their past as master and student, and Guzma initially rejecting Hala upon their past, but Hala not giving up on him one bit. Hala mentions how Guzma never respected his opponent's strength, which is what led to his downfall, as he only ever focused on beating people down, and that Pokemon battling is about both trainers and Pokemon growing stronger together. Again, Guzma rejects him, but seeing as how Hala didn't give up on him, he finally acknowledges Hala as his master and gives you a present for helping him through and tells you that he's looking forward to fighting you again to see how strong he becomes, and sets off on his training arc with Hala, which, funny enough, in the TCG, there's actually card artwork of Hala and Guzma training together after this moment, showing that things really have changed for Guzma. And even in Pokemon Moon and Ultra Moon, you get to see Guzma be respectful towards you once he loses in the battle tree, and even the chance of seeing him use a Z move, showing that he's gone back to appreciating Alola's traditions and values. And even in both Ultra games, he becomes an ally, helping you take down and stop Team Rainbow Rocket. And you can become an ally by subscribing. It's free, and 98% of my audience isn't subscribed, so I'd really appreciate it. This whole time, Guzma was only ever led astray because of his idea that he had to beat people down. But this idea came because he was constantly being beaten down by the people around him. His father who beat him down physically, other trainers who always took first place from him, and adults who never acknowledged him for who he was. And even his rival Kukui, who always had the upper hand on him. And while Kukui always respected and acknowledged Guzma, the snowball that occurred in his life probably made it so that Guzma couldn't see it any other way than him having to prove himself and protect himself by being stronger than the rest. After all, if he becomes strong enough, no one could hurt or crush him the way they've done before. That's the mindset of many people who do bully or hurt others because they felt the other side of it before. You wouldn't think to be someone who has to be strong to not be hurt if you weren't already hurt yourself. And while Guzma could have perceived things differently, it's hard to blame him for anything. And the moment he realized the error of his ways, he turned his life around. Even with his father, whatever issues they may have had, as bad as it was for him, he seemed to have the maturity to make amends with him, even though Guzma was on the receiving end of things. In the anime, we see another part of Guzma's change, and this one involves his ace Golisopod. In his final fight against Ash, when Guzma's Golisopod chooses not to run away and fight, Guzma realizes how similar he is to Golisopod in the way he's been choosing to run away every time a fight or a challenger appears that he feels like he would lose to. That he's only ever been taking on weak opponents to maintain his status as someone who's strong. And he finally decides to let loose and go all out and have fun with this battle against Ash. I talked about Golisopod earlier, but not only is Golisopod the perfect Pokemon and ace for him, and a Pokemon that I just think they designed for the sake of Guzma, but him being a bug type specialist is also incredibly fitting because the bug type is known to be weak in the early stages of evolution. Pokemon that just get stepped on very early on, but a lot of them turn out to be much stronger upon evolution. Not the very best, but still incredibly strong with there being a place for them for sure. It just embodies his character so perfectly. Guzma never actually uses the Bugginium Z. He actually uses the Darkinium Z in the battle tree, but this is probably a reference to either Guzma receiving one from Nanu, as Team Skull's base is in Po Town, or a reference to the leader of the old team of misfits that formed Team Skull being the Dark-type Kahuna before Nanu, or possibly with the leader of those misfits being Nanu himself. There's some things to talk about there, but you'll have to let me know if you want to see a video on that in the comments below. But yeah, Guzma was never a bad person. He was just led astray from a very troubled past. A kind of past that I think many people could relate to. But the moment he saw that he could live a better life by receiving help from other people rather than running away from it, and by respecting and acknowledging people rather than condemning them, he managed to really change everything about him and his life for the better. He's a fan favorite character for sure, but he's one that I still think deserves much more recognition. Because for a character in a Pokemon game, he's incredibly deep and lovable. And that's only because they managed to make him so relatable. Personally, I'm hoping that we get a chance to see him again. If you want to see more dark videos like this one, I have a few other ones on Pokemon characters that you can check out right here. Thanks for watching, and thanks to all my members for supporting me with the channel. Remember to subscribe, and I'll see you guys over in the next video, alright? Later!